Hello children, how do you do? Hope you are healthy and happy. Dear children, you must intensely desire your life goal and deeply believe that you will attain the life goal. For attaining the life goal, you should have 3 G's in your life. Remember these 3 G's. Number 1, gratitude. Number 2, goodwill. And number 3, good wishes. When you express these 3 G's, not only you will be feeling happiness, because you will be to the zenith of your happiness, but with you, the person to whom you are expressing these 3 G's, that person will also feeling happiness. My dear children, create a positive vibe around you so that your life will be filled with happiness. By saying this, we can move on to the chapter. In the previous class, we were discussing about 8th chapter, the paths traversed by life. In this chapter, we understood that life has originated in the sea, and that was the hypothesis given by the 2 scientists, and the name of the hypothesis is the chemical evolution theory. Panspermia concept was also discussed there, but panspermia concept was not accepted by the scientific world as it don't have any proof related to its theory. But chemical evolution theory was widely accepted by scientific world because it has given many experimental evidences based on the origin of life on earth, and it is also the origin of life took place in ocean. Now here we have understood that the chemical evolution theory was given by A.I. Oparin as well as J.B.S. Haldane. They both were the proponents of this theory, and in the previous class we understood about how the life has originated through the theory chemical evolution, and you could have, and I think you would have understood that atmosphere of primitive earth and the source of energy together, the both, that is these gases, they were there in the primitive earth which were having a chemical reaction, and with the help of source of energy, condensation process took place and continuous rain led to the formation of ocean, and in the ocean also simple organic compounds were formed and later complex organic molecules were formed, and again with the chemical reaction of these, nucleic acid and lipid layer was formed, and last primitive cell was formed. That was the illustration based on chemical evolution, and we understood that this chemical evolution theory was widely accepted as various experiment was done by the researchers based on this hypothesis, and one of the experiment was Urey-Miller experiment, and already we discussed about this experiment also, and later on we understood that in this experiment also the final product was amino acid. And next we understood that the illustration telling about the geological time scale, which is giving more evidences related to the major events took place in the origin of life, and we understood that 3,800 million years ago origin of life on earth took place, that is primitive cell was formed. 3,500 millions of years ago origin of prokaryotes took place. 1,500 millions of years ago origin of eukaryotes took place, and 1,000 millions years of ago origin of multicellular organisms took place. So this is what the geological time scale was telling about the origin of life on earth. And next we understood that evidences were there related to evolution, and many theories was put forward for the evolution, and among these theories the first theory was put forward by Jean Baptiste Lamarck, That is, the name of the theory is Lamarckism, and Lamarck said that the characters developed during the lifetime of organisms are called acquired character, and it is being inherited from generation to generation. That was the theory given by Lamarck, but this theory was not accepted by the scientific world because this theory don't have any proof. It is not able to give any solid proof related to the acquired character which is being transmitted from generation to generation. Later on, another theory came into existence, and that was Darwinism. Charles Robert Darwin, an English naturalist, brought this theory, that is Darwinism. And Charles Robert Darwin, he has joined a group appointed by the British government to construct maps of coastal area when he was 22 years, and later on he had collected necessary evidences for his theory of evolution, and after many follow-up inquiries, observations and studies, he presented his theory in his renowned text Origin of Species by means of Natural Selection in the age of 50. Isn't it? And this theory was accepted, or we can say widely accepted by the scientific world, as it is having the experimental evidences. Now, Charles, he went to Galapagos Island for the evolution theory, and from there he conducted many experiments. And there in the Galapagos Island, he saw finches. Finches are the birds with small beaks, and when he observed these finches closely, he saw the difference among the finches, that is the difference in the beaks among the finches, which attracted Darwin, and he thought of doing experiment based on the different beaks which were seen among the finches. And later on he came to know that all these finches, they have beaks which was there adapted to their feeding habits. Later on he understood that all these finches, they were having beaks adapted to their feeding habits. And then another idea that influenced Darwin was the idea of Thomas Robert Malthus. And Thomas Robert Malthus said that rate of food production is not proportionate to the growth of human population. Isn't it, my dear children? See, my dear children, those things which I have highlighted, wherever I have written, I have given important. All those things are very, very important. Those points are very, very important. You have to go through it, you have to study it, you have to understand it, you have to learn it, because these points, based on these points, question used to come in the examination. I think you would have understood about the idea of Thomas Robert Malthus, and based on the idea of Thomas Robert Malthus, Darwin, he bought a new concept. The concept which was bought by Darwin was theory of natural selection, and in the theory of natural selection, in the previous class we understood how the origin of new species are taking place, and then we came to know that Darwin was able to understand that variations are taking place, but he was not able to explain the reasons of variations, because during his period there was no idea regarding genes, chromosomes, etc. And later on, after the period of Darwin, the scientists again, they revised the Darwinism theory by knowing more about genetics, cytology, geology and paleontology, and later on they modified Darwinism, and the new Darwinism which was brought by the scientist is known as Neo-Darwinism. Next theory was the mutation theory, which was put forward by Hugo de Vries, and we know that what is mutation? It is the sudden changes that occur in genes, that is called mutation, and through mutation variations are taking place. Therefore, mutation is also playing an important role in bringing about evolution in species. So, this is Again, the third theory which was given by Hugo de Vries. So, the first theory based on evolution was given by Lamarck, and the theory is Lamarckism. The second theory was given by Charles Darwin, and it was Darwinism. And the third theory is mutation theory, which was given by Hugo de Vries. All these theories are related to evolution of species. I think, my dear children, you would have understood, isn't it? Now, next we are going to understand about the evidences of evolution. These three theories, they are explaining about the evolution of species, and now we are going to understand evidences based on evolution. There are many evidences to support the evolution of new species. Paleontology, comparative morphology, physiology and modern molecular biology provides evidences to validate evolution. This is important. So, many evidences are there to support the evolution of new species. Paleontology means study of fossil. Comparative morphology, morphology means study of external features. So, by comparing the external features of organisms, evidences has taken. And physiology, we know that all the internal activities which is been taking place in the body of an organism. And modern molecular biology, that is based on the DNA. So, from these evidences, the valid proof was taken in relation to the evolution of species. So, first one we are going to study, that is fossils. Fossils means paleontology, evidences of evolution. What is fossils? Fossils are remnants of primitive organisms. They are evidences that explain the history of life on earth. So, fossils, they are the remnants, that is they are the remains of primitive organisms. So, fossils are the remains of primitive organisms, and fossils are playing an important role to explain the history of life on earth. So, fossils, it may be the body parts or imprints of organism. It may be the complete body or any body part, or it may be the imprint of the organisms, isn't it? Now, next thing, it has been said that the oldest known fossil dating from about 3.5 billion years ago are prokaryotes. So, the oldest known fossils are prokaryotes, and fossils from different layers of rocks, when it is being taken, it is said that from prokaryotes, eukaryotes have evolved, that evolution of eukaryotes from prokaryotes. So, from the layers of rocks and fossils were taken, it has been seen that the eukaryotes has evolved from prokaryotes, and the cell biology and molecular biology make fossil evidences more scientific. The cell biology and molecular biology, both these science area, they have played an important role to bring about evidences in the field of paleontology, or we can say fossils, and it is telling that prokaryotes are the oldest known fossil, and number 2, eukaryotes have evolved from prokaryotes. It is very, very important, my dear children. You have to go through it. Okay. Now, we can see next one, the illustration 8.6. It is very, very important again. Evidences provided by fossils. So, we can see here primitive fossils have simple structure, recently formed fossils have complex structure, and certain fossils are connecting links between different species. This is very, very important. The primitive fossils, simple structure, they are made up of simple structures, and the recently formed fossils have, that is the organisms which have formed recently, they have complex structure, and certain fossils were obtained there which were showing the similarities or a connecting link between the species. Archaeopteryx is one of such fossil. It is the link between the bird as well as the reptile. Archaeopteryx is one of the fossil which is showing the connecting link between the bird as well as the reptile. So, we can say that there is a common ancestor from which the organisms have evolved. My dear children, I think you would have understood. So, fossil is giving an important evidence, and that is, it is telling that there is a common ancestor from which the organism have evolved. So, fossil is playing an important role in the evidence of evolution. I think you would have understood about this one. Now, the number 2 evidence related to the origin of life is comparative morphological studies. You can see the illustration 8.7. This is very important. You can see the morphological structure of these organisms, the limbs of these organisms. The forelimbs of these organisms differ in their external appearance. We can see the forelimbs of these 3 organisms, and they appear differently, isn't it? Are they different in their anatomy too? What is anatomy? Anatomy is the study of internal structure. What is morphology? Morphology is the study of external structure. So, these are externally, when we see, they are different, but internally when the studies took place, we can see what happened. Okay, these forelimbs are made up of, blood vessels, nerves, muscles and bones. So, these 3 organisms, they are different, their forelimbs appears different morphologically, but when anatomical studies went on, that time the scientists came to know that these 3 organisms forelimbs are made up of blood vessels, nerves, muscles and bones. So, this blood vessels, nerves, muscles and bones, they are common in these organisms in anatomical view. Now, difference in their external appearance are their adaptation to live in their own habitat. What it has been said? Difference in their external appearance. This is the difference we can see in their external appearance. Why this thing happened? This difference which we have seen just now is just an adaptation to live in their habitat. Organs that are similar in structure and perform different functions are called homologous organs. So, these are said to be homologous organs because they are having different functional aspect, but they are made up of similar structure. This organ part, they are made up of similar structures, isn't it? That is, they are made up of blood vessels, nerves, muscles as well as bones, but they are performing different functions, therefore they are known as homologous organs. I think, my dear children, you would have understood about illustration 8.7. Do such anatomical resemblance justify the inference that all organisms evolved from a common ancestor? This is a question. The anatomical resemblance just now we have seen, isn't it? Whether it justifies that all organisms evolved from a common ancestor? Answer is yes. Now, the third evidence related to origin of life is biochemistry and physiology. Biochemistry and physiology. We can see here how different are microbes, plants and animals in their external appearance. We can see microorganisms are there, plants are there, animals are there, all they are different in their external appearance. But when a close observation was done, surely it is said that there are close resemblance in their cell structure and physiology. When closely these organisms were observed, that is internal structures, when was studied by the scientists, they came to know that they are having similarities in their cell structures as well as physiology. So, we can see what are the similarities these organisms have. Illustration 8.8, biochemistry and physiology. Again, it is important, my dear children. You can see this is the structure of bacteria, which is a microorganism, and this is human being. Okay. Now, their cell biology as well as physiology, or we can say their cell structure as well as physiology, when it is compared the scientists, they came to know that some similarities are also present among them, and those similarities are enzymes control chemical reactions in both bacteria as well as human being. Energy is stored in ATP molecule. Genes determine hereditary traits. Carbohydrates, proteins and fats are the basic substances. All these are the common thing which is seen in bacteria as well as human being. So from this, again the scientists, they understood that different species which are existing today have a common ancestor. So from this evidence, again the scientists, they came to the conclusion or the inference that different species that exist today have common ancestor. I think you would have understood the third evidence, isn't it, my dear children? First evidence is related to paleontology or fossil. Number 2 is related to the comparative morphological structure. And number 3 evidence which was taken place or took place was related to biochemistry and physiology. Now the number 4 evidence related to the evolution of life, or we can say evolution of origin of species, is molecular biology. Now through a comparative study of protein molecules in different species, when a comparative study is being done on the protein molecules in different species, the evolutionary relationship among organisms can be identified. Mutation may occur in genes that determine the amino acid sequence in protein molecules. We know that amino acids are the basic building blocks of protein molecule, and mutation, it is taking place in genes, and genes are determining the amino acid sequence in protein molecules. This causes changes in amino acid. When mutation takes place in genes, automatically what will happen? There we can see a change taking place in the sequence of amino acid, and the amino acid in beta chain of hemoglobin in man has been compared to the amino acid in the beta chain of other organisms. So in the case of other organisms and man, hemoglobin is present there, and hemoglobin is having 2 chain, alpha chain and beta chain. And as we know that hem and globin, hem is an ion and globin is a protein, and this protein is made up of amino acid. Understood, my dear children? And next thing, it is being said that the amino acid in the beta chain of hemoglobin of man is being compared with the amino acid in the beta chain of other organism. So what is being compared there? The beta chain in the hemoglobin structure of man is being compared with the beta chain in the other organisms, that is beta chain of hemoglobin in other organism. Now we can see the table 8.1, which is giving us the detail related to the comparison. You can see here organisms, chimpanzee, gorilla and rat, these were compared with man, and the difference from the amino acids in the beta chain of hemoglobin in man we can see. In chimpanzee, when the comparative study was done based on the amino acid present in the hemoglobin chain, isn't it? It has been said that no change, that is there is no difference in the amino acid in the beta chain of hemoglobin in man as well as in chimpanzee. What about gorilla? Difference of 1 amino acid is being seen there. When the comparative study was done with the man as well as the gorilla based on the amino acid present in the beta chain of hemoglobin, it is said that difference of 1 amino acid is seen there in gorilla. And in the case of rat, difference of 31 amino acid. So that is what we can say from this, that chimpanzee is the closest organism to man and rat is the farthest organism. That is, there is no similarity when we see the rat as well as the man, isn't it? But chimpanzee and man both are having similarities, as they don't have any change in the amino acid in the beta chain of hemoglobin. Now, these kinds of molecular studies help to find out the evolutionary relationship of different species of organisms. So, through this evolutionary relationship of different organisms can found out, and it will be easy for the scientists to know which organism is nearest and closest to human being. Indicator, which organism is farthest from humans from the evolutionary point of view and why? It is the rat, because the hemoglobin or the amino acid present in the beta chain of hemoglobin was 31 in the case of rat. Which organism is the closest to man from the evolutionary point of view? It is the chimpanzee. What is the reason for this? That is, it is found that no change is being seen in the beta chain of amino acid in the case of hemoglobin when compared with the man as well as chimpanzee. Now, the next one is evolution of human being. In this manner, after taking many evidences from many areas, the scientists, they reached to the evolution of human beings, and an evolutionary tree related to certain organisms including human, which is given below. From that we understood that organisms show many similarities as they have evolved from common ancestors. So, from the evolutionary tree it is been understood that organisms, they are showing many similarities, and from that thing it is came to know that they are having common ancestor. So, here you can see humans, chimpanzee, gorilla, orangutan, gibbon and monkey are included in the category. In the evolutionary tree, human, chimpanzee, gorilla, orangutan, gibbon and monkeys, they are included there in the category called Anthropoidea. This is further classified into Cercopithecida and Hominoidea. Anthropoidea is one of the category, and this Anthropoidea is again classified into Cercopithecida and Hominoidea. So, we can see the evolutionary tree based on the evolution of human being. This is the illustration which is very, very important again, my dear children. It used to come in the question paper, and here you can see Anthropoidea is a category which is a common category, or we can say which is a common ancestor for all these organisms. Anthropoidea is a common ancestor for monkey, gibbon, orangutan, gorilla, chimpanzee as well as man. Anthropoidea is classified into Cercopithecida and Hominoidea. Cercopithecida, small brain, long tailed. Hominoidea, developed brain, freely movable hands. Again I will repeat, Anthropoidea, it is classified into two, Cercopithecida and Hominoidea. Cercopithecida, small brain, long tailed, whereas Hominoidea, developed brain, freely movable hands. Now, Cercopithecida, we can see in that only monkey is the member. In the case of Hominoidea, we can see gibbon, orangutan, gorilla, chimpanzee and man. All these are the members of Hominoidea, but they are having different branches. Understood? So, we can say from gibbon, orangutan has originated. From orangutan, gorilla has originated, and from gorilla, chimpanzee has originated, and from chimpanzee, man has originated. This is the order of origin of human being, or we can say evolution of human being. So, gibbon, orangutan, gorilla, chimpanzee and man, they are coming under Hominoidea. Only monkey is coming under Cercopithecida. Understood? And the features related to monkey is small brain, long tail. In the case of these, developed brain, freely movable hands. This is the common thing which can be seen in these organisms. This is the evolutionary tree based on the evolution of human being. It is very, very important, my dear children. You have to study it. Which organism is the closest to humans in specific character? So, we can say closest to human is chimpanzee. How Anthropoidea, Cercopithecida and Hominoidea are related to each other? Anthropoidea, Cercopithecida and Hominoidea are related to each other. Anthropoidea is a common ancestor, and from Anthropoidea, Cercopithecida and Hominoidea they have originated. Understood? That's why they are related to each other. What are the characteristics of the organisms which belong to the group Hominoidea? Developed brain, freely movable hand are the characteristics of the organisms which belong to the group Hominoidea. Now, man evolved from monkeys. How would you respond to this statement? Man evolved from monkeys. We used to say they evolved from monkeys. How would you respond to this statement? The answer is no. Man has not evolved from monkeys, because monkeys they belongs to Cercopithecida and man belongs to Hominoidea. Monkeys have the character small brain with long tail, and man is having the developed brain, freely movable hands. That's why we can say man has not evolved from monkey. Now, so this is the evolutionary tree related to the evolution of human being. Now we are going to understand the illustration 8.10 which depicts the evolutionary history of modern man. So we can see how the modern man has evolved. So you can see here, this is the flow chart related to the illustration where main stages in the history of human evolution is been shown, and here you can see number 1. The first ancestor of modern man was Ardipithecus ramidus, most primitive member of human race. Fossils were discovered from Africa. Number 2, Australopithecus afarensis. Australopithecus afarensis, slender body. Fossils were discovered from Africa. Number 3rd ancestor was Homo habilis, made weapons from stones and bone pieces. Fossils were discovered from Africa. The next ancestor was Homo erectus, thick chin and large teeth, had the ability to stand erect. Fossils were discovered from Africa and Asia. Next was Homo neanderthalensis, contemporary to modern man. Fossils were discovered from Europe and Asia. And the last but not the least, the modern man, Homo sapien, modern man. First fossils were discovered from France. So this is the order of evolution of human being. The first one is being said, this order you have to study, my dear children. First one is Ardipithecus ramidus. Number 2, Australopithecus afarensis. Number 3, Homo habilis. Number 4, Homo erectus. Number 5, it is Homo neanderthalensis. And number 6 is Homo sapien. So these are the main stages in the history of human evolution. This is very, very important, my dear children. Now next we can see what are the features of modern man that differentiate him from other organisms included in the historical path of evolution. What are the features of modern man that differentiate him from other organisms? isn't it? Number one, I can say the man is having a developed brain. Number two, the man is able to walk on two legs with erect body, isn't it? So these are certain features which make the modern man different from other organisms. Now, does the interference of human beings have a negative impact on the existence of organisms and nature itself? Does the interference of human beings have a negative impact on the existence of organisms and nature itself? Yes, because it has been said that biodiversity at global level has increased much recently than ever before. But this biodiversity is on a dangerous decline due to the interference of human beings. It is recorded in the evolutionary history that there occurred 5 mass extinctions till now, and biodiversity got re-established rapidly afterwards. So 5 mass extinction took place, and after that biodiversity it has got re-established, isn't it? So now it has been said that would the reckless interference of intelligent human being destroy the continuity of life on earth? Would the reckless interference of intelligent human beings destroy the continuity of life on earth? The answer is yes, because we are putting our hand into the nature and we are destroying it every second of our life. In every second of the life, the nature is been getting destroyed by human being. Surely we can say the destruction of, or we can say the continuity of life on earth will be destroyed if such continuous interference of human being into the biodiversity is taking place. So we can see here human life is possible on earth only with the preservation of other diverse ecosystem. When the other ecosystem which are present there on this earth, if it is been preserved there, it is been protected there, then only human life is possible on earth. Human beings are capable of foreseeing far-reaching consequences. This is very, very important, and taking necessary precautions in this regard. Human beings, they know, as they are having developed brain, they can think, they can feel, isn't it? They know what is the consequence if they will be destroying the biodiversity, or they know what is the consequences when taking place when the biodiversity is completely destructed. And by knowing that thing, surely they should take certain precautions in this regard so that the biodiversity or the natural ecosystem or the nature can be protected as well as can be preserved. This leaves us with hopes for future life on earth. If such kind of precautions, if it is being taken from the human being side, then only we can say we are having the hope for future life on earth. So my dear children, it is our duty to protect and preserve our biodiversity. It is our duty to protect and preserve our nature. That because the future generation is awaiting for a good biodiversity, a healthier biodiversity. So my dear children, we have to give them the healthier biodiversity and we have to make them happy. By saying this chapter is completed. We can move on to the let us assess which concept is put forward by the theory of natural selection. It is origin of life. List the main concept that indicates how the biodiversity seen today has developed from prokaryotes. So already we have seen the geological time scale, isn't it? And from there, as well as from the fossils evidences, we understood that from prokaryotes today's biodiversity is existed. Next one, how does the interference of human beings with nature influences the process of evolution. Just now we have seen related to it. How does this affect the existence of other organisms? Surely when an ecosystem is destroyed, because of the destruction of an ecosystem, there will be imbalance taking place in the biodiversity, and that can lead to the destruction of human life on the earth. What are the evidences that substantiate the theories of evolution? Evidences that substantiate the theories of evolution. There are evidences such as fossil. Number 2, the comparative morphological structure. Number 3, the studies based on biochemical as well as physiological studies. Number 4, molecular biology. All these are the studies or evidences which is telling us about the theories of evolution. My dear children, you have to explain all these evidences and you have to write the answers of all these questions related to this chapter. So, my dear children, here your biology portion for your board exam gets completed. Now, you have to begin with your revision. Before that, you have to go through today's session and you have to see this or watch this session 2 to 3 times, understand it and do the work or the indicators which is given in this chapter. You have to write the answers of these indicators in your file as well as let us assess in your file and complete your file. And my dear children, after completing, you have to again begin your lesson in the form of revision so that you can perform very well in your examination. By saying this, I wind up the session here. My dear children, be always happy and take care.